Men don't lose women because they mess up too often. They lose them because they leave no lasting impression. Most guys convince themselves she drifted away due to bad timing, miscommunication, or some emotional complexity they just can't decode. But the truth is far more straightforward and a lot more painful. They didn't get betrayed. They weren't hated. They simply faded into the background, replaced quietly by a man who understood exactly what to do and what to never do. Here's the hard reality most men don't see coming. In today's world, being irrelevant is more dangerous than being disliked. Because if she still hates you, at least you're on her mind. But once she stops thinking about you entirely, it's over. This video breaks down 6 mistakes powerful men never make with women. And no, these aren't tired cliches. These are subtle missteps that slowly drain your influence, your presence, and your position in her life until there's nothing left. Each one feels small. Each one is common. And chances are, you might be making at least one of them without even realizing it. Correcting just one can shift her perception of you. Fix all 6, and you become the kind of man she wouldn't dare test again. So stick around until the end. Whether you're single, dating, or already married, what we're about to cover applies to every man, at every level. And what you're going to learn today, it might completely change the way women respond to you for good. Let's jump in. Mistake 1. You give her a role she didn't earn. A woman enters your world. She's attractive. She seems different. She sparks a feeling in you. And before you know it, you've already forgotten who the real prize is. You start painting a future in your head. You treat her like she's the one. You speak to her as if she's already earned your loyalty, your time, your presence, even your heart. But here's the cold truth. When you treat a woman like royalty before she's done a single thing to build the kingdom, she doesn't feel grateful, she feels in control. And power handed out too easily? It breeds entitlement. Machiavelli warned, when generosity is given without measure, it often breeds resentment instead of loyalty. Why? Because when someone receives more than they've earned, they start to expect even more, without ever having to fight for it. That's exactly what's happening in modern dating. You meet a woman, and instead of observing who she really is, you assume she's exceptional. You send long, heartfelt messages. You drop plans for her. You reply instantly, rearrange your schedule, and confide in her like she's been your therapist for years. She doesn't have to earn your time, you give it away. She doesn't need to prove herself, you act like she already has. And then, without warning, she starts pulling back. Not because she's a bad person, but because she never had to invest, and when someone hasn't invested, they have nothing to lose. Now here's what high-value men, dangerous men, do differently. They don't reward potential. They reward proof. They observe first. They pay attention. They wait. Not to play games, but to protect what matters. If she shows consistency, they open up a bit more. If she brings peace into their life, they invite her in. But they never rush to hand over a role she hasn't earned. If you're single, don't let her looks cloud your judgment. Let her behavior guide your decision. No woman should be given access to your time, your energy, or your emotions without first proving that she honors them. If you're in a relationship, remember, just because she's yours doesn't mean she's still acting like it. Don't celebrate what she used to do. Watch how she's showing up now. If you're married, titles don't freeze time. Respect, like reverence, has to be earned again and again. Even queens get dethroned when they forget what made them queens in the first place. Because the woman who earns your attention will protect it like it's hers to defend. But the one who's handed the crown for free? She'll eventually find a reason to set the whole kingdom on fire. Now let's keep going, because the next mistake? It can make you disappear in her eyes, even when you're standing right in front of her. Mistake 2. You don't create emotional contrast. You're nice. You're always there. You're dependable. You always respond with a pleasant tone, never raise your voice, never let her question what you're feeling. And that, right there, is the issue. Because when a woman can predict your every move, your every word, and how you'll react, the emotional connection starts to fade. There's no mystery left. No intrigue. No emotional spark. Just flatness. Like emotional white noise. To her, you start to feel like a room she's walked through a dozen times already. No hidden corners. No unexpected turns. No sense of wonder. Nothing to discover anymore. Machiavelli didn't write about love, but when it came to influence and power, no one understood it better. He once said that a ruler must know how to both scare and fascinate, not at the same time, but with strategic timing. That means you don't have to walk around being intense 24/7. You just have to keep her guessing, enough so she can't look away. In the real world, you call her every day like clockwork. You send a good morning text before she even wakes up. You explain why you couldn't reply right away. You apologize before she even has a chance to be upset. You agree with her before she's even done talking. You become so emotionally see-through that there's nothing left to explore. But emotional transparency doesn't equal emotional intimacy. In fact, it kills attraction. It kills the dynamic. Now here's how dangerous men handle it. They move like changing weather, sometimes sunny, sometimes cool, occasionally calm, and at times distant like a thunderstorm that hasn't broken yet. Not to play games, but to lead with presence. Because women don't get hooked on predictable comfort. They get hooked on the man who can make them feel something unexpected. So if you're single, don't pour your entire emotional spectrum onto the canvas in the first conversation. Leave a little for her to figure out. Let her be curious. Maybe today you're bold and outgoing. Tomorrow, quiet and thoughtful. Let her ask herself, who is this man, really? If you're in a relationship, don't let routine kill the rhythm. Shake things up. If she's expecting silence, hit her with something deep and meaningful. If she's used to comfort, stand firm with conviction. If you're married, don't confuse being safe with being stagnant. Desire needs movement, energy that shifts and evolves. Give her reasons to rediscover you, emotionally, spiritually, physically. Don't just be her husband on paper. Be the mystery she's still drawn to uncover. Because when she doesn't fully map out your emotional terrain, you'll stay vivid in her imagination. And a man who lives rent-free in her thoughts? He never has to beg for attention. Let's move on. Because the next mistake? It takes your power and hands it over without you even realizing it. Mistake 3. You believe that understanding her means you've won her. You've read the books. You've watched the podcasts. You've decoded her love language, unpacked her childhood trauma, memorized every emotional trigger she might carry. And once you've absorbed all that info, you do your best to listen. You validate her feelings. You adjust and adapt. Sounds noble, right? Sounds like emotional intelligence in action. You think, this is it. This is how I keep her, by being the man who truly gets her. But here's the cold, Machiavellian truth. The moment someone is fully understood, they stop being desired. Because desire isn't built on full clarity. It's born in curiosity. A woman doesn't lie awake thinking about the guy who has her all figured out. She's thinking about the man who feels like a riddle, a beautiful, moving poem she still hasn't quite solved. Machiavelli once said, "To command respect, one must appear rare." And that's where most men drop the ball. They get so good at being emotionally open, so tuned into her psychology, that they strip away the very mystery that made them irresistible. Mistake 4. You explain instead of enforce. She crosses a boundary. You feel the shift inside. But instead of responding with calm silence and letting your absence speak, you go into overdrive explaining yourself. You talk it out. You outline what hurt you. You try to reason with her like two grown adults having a civilized discussion. You hope she'll see your perspective, understand your pain, maybe even offer an apology. But here's what really happens. Every word you utter after she disrespects you, it chips away at your authority. Machiavelli wasn't in the business of writing feel-good advice. He wrote manuals for power and survival. He said a prince must be both lion and fox. And lions? They don't explain their roar. In relationships, this means one thing. If you're constantly explaining your boundaries, you probably don't have any. Because real power doesn't need to be spoken, it's felt. Let's look at real life. She cancels your date last minute. And you respond, "It would have been nice to have some notice." She mocks your ambitions. And you reply, "That really hurt me." She keeps pushing your limits, and instead of enforcing the line, you keep negotiating it. And then you say something like, "Please don't do that again." Sounds rational, right? Sure, but it also sounds powerless. What you're really doing is asking for respect, when you should be demanding it through your behavior. You're turning your personal boundaries into feelings open for debate. If you're single, this plays out in never-ending texting loops. She ghosts you, returns a week later, and you talk it out. You try to reason with someone who's already shown she doesn't feel the need to explain herself. If you're in a relationship or marriage, it's the same cycle. You pour your frustration into conversation, hoping she'll meet you with understanding. But the more you explain, the more your edge dulls. She won't say it out loud. Maybe she doesn't want to hurt you or shake the boat. But make no mistake, her desire is quietly fading. So here's what you do differently. Stop broadcasting your boundaries. Start backing them up. If she makes fun of your goals, stop talking about your future with her. If she plays games with your time, don't offer closure, just disappear. If she pushes your patience, step back without warning or noise. You don't have to be cruel. You just have to be clear. Because few things leave a stronger imprint than calm, unapologetic distance. In the world of love, words decorate. But actions? Actions are the law. Let's keep going. The next mistake? It doesn't just make you less attractive, it turns you into her unpaid emotional support. Mistake 5. You give your time without being asked and without being valued. She doesn't reach out. She doesn't make effort. Sometimes, she doesn't even show genuine interest. And still, you're always there. You reply within seconds. You send a second text when she ignores the first. You react to her Instagram stories like a loyal pet, waiting for scraps of attention. You keep validating her, like you're trying to earn a spot at the table, when you were the one who built the damn table. Here's the harsh truth. The more freely you offer your attention, the less she values it. Machiavelli didn't live in the age of DMs and story views, but he knew people. He wrote that the value of anything increases with scarcity. A man who's constantly available? He becomes part of the wallpaper. Just another face in the feed. She knows you'll always be there, and that's exactly why she stops looking for you. Here's what that looks like in real life. You send her a sweet, good morning text. She opens it, but doesn't respond until it's dark out. You compliment her new post, and she leaves you on read. You check in and ask how she's feeling. She says, "I'm fine," and never asks about you. And still, you stick around. If you're single, you end up chasing women who don't return the same energy. You shower them with attention before they've even earned it. You reward coldness by offering more of yourself. If you're dating or married, you carry the whole emotional load. You're the one who starts every conversation. You're the one who plans everything, makes the moves, reaches for affection. And eventually, without either of you saying it out loud, she starts to believe something dangerous. That you need her way more than she needs you. So what's the fix? Start treating your attention like it's gold. You don't give it out just because someone smiled at you. Pull back from the ones who give nothing. Don't rush to reply, pause, observe. Let her earn more access to your world, instead of handing it over on a silver platter. Because the more easily someone can reach you, the less they care when they do. The easier it is to have you, the easier it becomes to forget you. Let's move to the final mistake. And this one doesn't just weaken how she sees you. It erases you. You don't say it out loud. Maybe you don't even fully admit it to yourself. But deep down, what you really want is to be seen. You want her to notice the things you do. You want her to see your loyalty, your effort, your consistency, and one day look you in the eye and say, "You're not like the others." But that craving for validation, that hunger to be acknowledged, it's the final cut that severs your power. Because here's the twisted truth. The man who needs to be recognized will always bow beneath the one who decides when to give recognition. Machiavelli understood this long before any of us. He said, "A man who needs approval is easy to rule." In relationships, it plays out like this. The moment you start doing things to be noticed, you've already handed over control. You've gone from leading to performing. You're waiting for applause, waiting for her to crown you, instead of stepping up and claiming the throne on your own. So here's the shift. You don't need to reflect her back to herself like a mirror. You need to be her enigma, something she can feel, but not fully grasp. Let her emotions rise. Don't interrupt them with explanations or reassurances. Let silence carry weight. Let your presence linger louder than your words. Be the man she feels in her bones, but can never quite define. Because when a woman can't finish the puzzle, she keeps playing with it. Let's move forward. The next mistake? It sounds noble, even kind, but it slowly drains your strength without you knowing. In real life, you say things like, "I get it, you're just overwhelmed." Or, "It's okay, I understand why you've been distant." Or, "This isn't about me, I know it's your attachment wounds." You think you're being emotionally intelligent. You think you're building connection. But what she feels is predictability. She starts filing you under safe, and soon after, safe becomes boring. You've made yourself her emotional butler. Always there, always understanding, always accommodating. If you're single, you try to connect too quickly. You echo her feelings, soothe her moods, read her like a manual. But instead of sparking attraction, you trigger comfort. And comfort, when it comes too early, kills momentum. If you're in a relationship or married, you end up trying to manage the emotional climate of the home. You're no longer the intriguing man she once chased. You've become the maintenance guy for her mood swings. And the fire fades, not because you failed, but because you lost that essential edge, that hint of mystery. You give too much, too soon. You initiate everything, the calls, the plans, the affection. And then you wonder why your presence starts to feel less and less valuable. Even in marriage, you show up, take care of things, do the work, but not from strength, from obligation, from the silent hope she'll finally notice and validate your love. And when she doesn't, you shrink a little more each time. So here's the recalibration. You're not here to be liked. You're here to be felt. Speak less. Expect nothing. Act from your standard, not from the need for her reaction. Because the man who moves without needing recognition becomes a storm she never saw coming. And once it hits, she can't forget it. Now let's wrap this up, because everything we've talked about leads to one last, powerful truth. Conclusion. Irrelevance doesn't happen in a flash. It sneaks in, slow, quiet, like a shadow crawling behind you while you're looking forward. Not because you weren't charming, not because you weren't enough, but because you kept giving without restraint. You texted too quickly. You explained too much. You offered too early. And in doing that, you watered down the very thing that made you magnetic in the first place. Your presence. Most men don't fade out because they lacked value. They fade because they traded that value for attention, approval, affection. And in the process, they became familiar, predictable, forgettable. But the dangerous man? He understands something most never will. That staying relevant isn't about always showing up. It's about pulling back. It's about contrast. It's about disappearing just enough to be missed. He never begs to be remembered. He lets silence do the talking. Because silence, used right, echoes louder than any speech. He knows unpredictability creates emotional gravity. And that emotional gravity is what keeps her circling back. Because women don't hold on to the man who was always available. They remember the one they never fully understood. The one who shook their certainty. The one who bent the rules without asking for permission. So no, don't fight to stay relevant. Don't beg for recognition. And never, ever explain your worth just to be chosen. Be the man she feels, not the one she scrolls past. Start moving like a man who already knows he's been chosen. Not by her, but by life itself, by purpose, by power. Be the man who walks away, not to punish, but to protect his standard. Not because he's bitter, but because he knows exactly what he's worth. The kind of man who can disappear and still leave the room colder without him. Because that's the man she keeps thinking about. Not the one who tried to be everything-ish, but the one she knows she can never truly replace. Let that be you. And if something in all of this hit you, if it shifted your perspective, and you're ready to become a man who's fully in command of his world, then you're going to want to read my book, The Undeniable Man, Built to be Chosen. It's not fluff. It's not gimmicks. It's a tactical, strategic guide for men who want to lead, attract, and stand out. Not just in love, but in every part of life. Whether you're single or already in a relationship. This is the playbook for building presence, power, and polarity. Tools you'll actually use every day. And strategies that will separate you from 99% of men out there. You'll find the link down below. And if this video stirred something in you, don't keep that insight locked inside your head. Drop a comment. Even just a few words. Because when you write it down, you remember it. And who knows, maybe your words help another man rise, too. Hit the like button if this message spoke to you. And share it with someone. Maybe a brother, a friend, or a man who's slipping. Someone you know needs to hear it today. Trust your gut on that. At the end of the day, we're all trying to sharpen up. To become clearer, steadier, stronger inside. So let's build minds that don't break. Let's become the kind of men no one forgets.